We're now going to solve percent problems using equations. So if you watched the last video, we solved problems, percent problems using proportions, and now we're going to solve the same problems, but a different way. So, well, same type of problems. When you are writing equations, you want to kind of use the math keywords to really guide you. So it's just exactly as you see. 60%, well, that's 60% of means to multiply. I'm going to use the dot for multiplication. Of what? I don't know. We'll call that x. Is means equals, and then I have 15.6. Now, the part about equations is that you can't play with percentages. You have to change them to decimals. So, 1, 2, this is 0.6 times x equals 15.6. Now I can solve this. So the equal sign splits it in half. Whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other side. So I'm going to divide by the number in front of the variable, because this is 0.6 times x. To undo multiplication, I divide. 0.6 divided by 0.6 is 1. So I just have 1x equals 26. And so my answer is 26. Number 2, just as I see it, 204 is means equal, what percent, I don't know, of means multiply 96. So again, my equal sign chops it in half. I want to get rid of the number by the variable, and since it's being multiplied, the opposite of multiplication is division. So when I divide, these go away, and I end up with x equals 2.125. But that's a decimal. I need that to be a percent. So I take my 2.125, to turn it into a percent, I multiply by 100, and the answer is 212.5%. So recall that with proportions, you don't have to do any changing between percents and decimals. It's all just, it is what it is. But with equations, you have to actually change between percents and decimals. Number 3, what percentage, I don't know, of 90, of means to multiply, is 18? So is means equals. Again, I have 90 times x, so I undo multiplication by dividing, and I get a value of x equals 0.2. Change that to a percent by multiplying by 100, and I have 20%. Number 4, what is 33% of 260? Well, recall, percent, change to a decimal, and then multiply. So this one's fairly straightforward. I just multiply these two numbers together, and I have x equals 85.8. And there is my answer. Now, when I get to story problems, this is where you got to think a little bit more. And sometimes it helps to just put it into words. So at a showing of the movie Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, 42 people were observed crying. I've never seen it, so I have no idea on this. If this, that refers to this 42, so I'm starting with 42. 42 is, right, because if this, so 42 is 35% of the total. That's what I'm seeing, 35% of the total number. So 42, if this is 35% of the total, what do we got? Well, 42 is 35% as a decimal times the total. So I equal sign splits, divide both sides by 0.35, and I should have an answer of 120 people. So there were 120 people in attendance. 42 of them were crying because of this movie. All right, number 6. In a 2013 Pew Research Center survey, 240 American adults responded they have used online dating sites or mobile dating apps. If 2,252 adult Americans were surveyed, what percent stated they have not used online dating? Okay, well, first of all, if we have a total of 2,252 and 240 of them have used it, then we know that 2,004 have not. So first of all, now we know how many have not. So we're looking at what, I'm going to put it in different words, what percent of the total is 2,252, is 2004. Because that's what the question is. What percentage of the total is the number that hasn't done it? So when I think about this as an equation, what percent of the total is 2004? Divide, here's my equal sign, so divide by the 2252, and I end up with an answer of 0.889, which is approximately 89%. So 89% of the people surveyed have not used the online dating app. That's what this says. Sometimes I think the story problems are a lot easier with proportions because you have the percent over 100 and then the part to the whole. But equations can be used too. And let's do one more with an equation. A survey of a sample of 68,000 addresses conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau in 2014 found that 14.5% of the respondents were living in poverty. How many of the addressees were living in poverty? So in words, I'm looking at 14.5% of the surveyed is poverty. Okay. So the survey is 68,000, so that number goes here. Instead of survey, I put 68,000. So when I put this into an equation, 14.5% is 0.145, right? Decimal 2 places. Of means to multiply by the 68,000, and that gives me my poverty. So 0.145 times 68,000, 9,860 people live in poverty. That's what that is telling us. And that is the end of solving equations, or solving percentages with equations.